Daytona Beach. And while he would stay there, there was most year, he was visited by Italian American mobsters in his house. So when he decides to give the coup d'état, he had not only the wealthy people groups or the army, he had the mafia. So he gives the coup d'état in March 1952, and he starts a dictatorship that not only was arbitrary, and of course, as every dictatorship, but also was very dirty. Imagine that the mobsters, they would control the tourism in Cuba, and this is the country where you could come and do whatever you wouldn't do in any other country in the world. Okay? So there was a majority of the Cuban population that was against to it, and as leader of that movement, there was who? Fidel Castro. So the triumph over this dictatorship happened on January the 1st, 59. But at that time, nobody was thinking on turning to socialism or becoming communists. All right? This is something that was declared in the very corner we're going to see right now. In the next corner, on December 16, 1961. Remember that on the, April 16. Remember that on April 15, there was Bay of Pigs. You remember Bay of Pigs? And prior to Bay of Pigs, it had been some bombings in important airfields of Cuba, and victims had been the consequence of this bombing. So next day, on April 16th, was the burial of most part of these victims. So this is the way to enter to the cemetery. Imagine the amount of people that was gathered at that very moment here. That's where Fidel declares the socialist character of Cuban Revolution. He says to everybody that we're stopping being capitalists to start being socialists. So that very year, at the moment where we became socialists, there was no more private businesses in Cuba. Private business in Cuba was not allowed, and whoever had a private business in the island had to sell it to the state. And the state gave itself 20 years to pay. Okay? So if you own a building in Cuba, you had to sell it to the state, and you as Cuban citizen